Okay, welcome everybody. It's Chris Petri. Again, thanks so much for coming by. This is another Extreme Beginner Series video. We're gonna do not one, not two, not three. We're gonna do 4 paintings here again. This is how we started our Extreme Beginner Series a ways back, maybe 6 months ago. We just went out and said, hey, let's do a lot of painting, a lot of drawing, and this is how we're going to get better at our artwork, at our watercolors. So this is all we're doing, is we're going to do another 4 paintings. We're doing an interesting cityscape first. Then we're going to do a beautiful house in the countryside. Maybe it's like a farmhouse with a barn next to it. Then we're going to change it up and do a nice abstract painting of some flowers, some roses with some beautiful shadowing, much easier, a lot of fun. Kind of get a break with this a little bit here. And then when we come over, we'll do our last painting, which is a boat. And this is a boat in a boatyard, in a shipyard, and they're doing some work on it, and they're painting and getting it all ready and prepped for another beautiful season of boating. So we're going to do all these gorgeous paintings all here on this one video. I'm really excited that you're going to join along, do the video, and do this tutorial at your own pace, whether you want to do 1 painting per day. Maybe you want to do all of them in one weekend. Maybe you want to do this 2 or 3 different times. Maybe one weekend you do all 3 or 4. Then maybe in a couple of weekends after that, try to do the same thing. Try to do 3 or 4 paintings in a row, and do them, rapidly. Get them done, and just move on to the next one. And if one comes out good, one doesn't come out good, no big deal. The thing is, the more you're practicing and doing one painting to the next painting to the next painting to the next painting, you're just going to get into the flow and into the process of just learning all of the basic steps you would use in watercolor that we show you here on this channel. So my basic goal is to show you the basic steps that you need to do each and every painting. Doesn't matter if the subject matter changes, you're going to get those same methods and techniques each painting as you go. And the more you repeat those over and over and over, you're going to get better. It's the same as if you're going to be learning a musical instrument, playing a guitar, the piano. If you're in sports, it's the same as learning any kind of sport: baseball, football, tennis, soccer, whatever sport, if you play music. It's just a matter of repeating the same things over and over and over again, and you become more familiar with it. It becomes easier, more fun, and that's what we want to do here. We want to have fun with our paintings. So let's start out and just get into it. Start our paintings out here, our drawings first, and then our paintings, of course. And then we're just going to keep working through each one, and we'll do all 4 in this video. So by the end of the video, if you do all 4, you'll have gotten a lot of practice, and a lot of new insights will happen as you paint all these 4 paintings. You're going to learn a lot, and you'll have a lot of new information under your belt that's going to help you get better looking paintings going, and you'll get more excited, and you'll stick with watercolor and have a great time with it and stick to that journey. We're on a journey with watercolor. Let's stick to it. In the beginning, it's a little tough. You're going to have some paintings that don't come out so good. Don't worry about it. You just keep going, one painting to the next painting, to the next painting, to the next painting, and you just keep going one after the next, and you'll get it. It'll become easier and more fun. Okay, so let's start out in just a second. I'll reset up my table here, and we'll get going. Okay, be right back. Okay, so we're getting started. We just saw the finished paintings, everyone. We kind of looked at them really closely, and now we're just going to drill into the details of each painting. We're doing 4 paintings in one video. We're going to move through this quickly, so don't worry. Just keep yourself focused on each painting as we go. Again, I always mention this with watercolors. It is a fast medium. You want to try to work pretty quickly. You don't want to take like 5, 6, 8 hours to do like one painting. Try to move kind of quick through each painting that we're doing here, and try to get the best result you can. By looking at I have each of the paintings I have on my phone. I found these on the internet, so I just looked up internet pictures of a watercolor. I think I put in cityscape, watercolor cityscape, and I found a couple pictures online of somebody's watercolors. Maybe this is someone that just created a picture or took a picture and put it online, but I just found this on the internet, no big deal. So we'll use this as our first painting. A nice city scene, cityscape, and we'll use this for our first painting, and we're just going to use our standard office pencil. I have also a little bit of a darker lead, a 6B. So the reason I use these 6B pencils is they're a little darker, so you can kind of see them a little more clearly on the video, because sometimes some of you, I've mentioned that it's hard to see the pencil lines. So I'm going to use this one. But when you're working at home, an office pencil is fine, just like this in number 2. Lead, HB, soft, is fine. And then for our brushes, of course, we're going to use just our standard beginners, extreme beginners series brushes, and it's going to be the brush that comes with the set, which is a round. They're all these are all synthetic brushes, which are great for beginners. So if you're just starting out, or you've been just painting a couple months or whatever, it's great to use your synthetic brushes because they're inexpensive. You don't have to go out and spend a lot of money on brushes. And 2, they handle really good for beginners, because when you're a beginner, you don't want too much water flooding onto your paper and in your palette. And if you have synthetic brushes, they don't hold as much water. They hold only a little bit of water when you dip them into the water pail. So you wind up having less water to deal with, which will be a good thing. So using synthetic brushes in the beginning when you're a watercolor artist is going to be a big help for you. And again, these are just the this is the Princeton Pro Art series brushes. They come like in a 5 or 6 pack like that. So you get a couple square brushes, you get a couple round brushes, and these are excellent, and they're very inexpensive. And then I have also a Simply Simmons number 6 round brush. This is a really good brush. I got this years ago, and synthetic brush, round brush, works really good. And then there was another one I've had for many, many years, a number 2, and it's the Princeton Pro Art series, Art and Brush Company. It's a shader number 2, which is basically like a real small square brush or flat brush. You can kind of see how that's pretty much like these 2. So just a little bit smaller than that one there. So those are our brushes, our pencil. I have some paper here, watercolor paper. I'm using the I think I'm using the Fabriano artist or student grade Fabriano paper here, watercolor paper. And then I just section it off with some tape, some art drafting tape or artist tape, so that we can make sections. And then we'll just keep moving our we'll move our phone around. The next one we do, we'll paint over on this side and we'll lift up. I have some paper here. This is printer paper, so I just put printer paper over the top of the watercolor paper here, and I already have this sectioned off with some artist tape, and I use different artist tape. So I use some wider tape, some thinner tape here. You can kind of see I have different thicknesses of tape to utilize. Reason being is if I want to make 4 sections on my watercolor pad, the center section I use 2 small strips of tape like this, one up on this side of the pencil line and then the other on this side of the pencil line. So I use 2 smaller strips in the center of the 2 sections, and then there's another 2 down here. We'll do the same thing. Maybe we'll show you how to do that once we get into the video and start painting in a little while, but for right now I'm just kind of going over how everything is all set up so you can kind of see in the beginning how we're doing this. And then I just take my tape just to tape down my printer paper, so that'll be there. And then we'll put our phone here, and again I looked up on the internet. You can look on the internet any kind of, you can research things to your heart's content. You can just look up things like city scenes in watercolor, and it might bring up 1,000 different paintings like this one, and you could pick whatever one you like, and then that's you would do, or you can work right from this one here on the video. So it's up to you. So let's start out with our pencil sketch, and we're not going to go to we're not going to spend hours drawing this. Let's just get the basic idea of this. Okay, so some beautiful buildings here. So let's start out and kind of get the overall feel for this. This looks like it's kind of works out good with thirds, space divisions of thirds. So we have a third there, a third here, and a third here. 1, 2, and 3 space divisions. 1, 2, 3. So it kind of looks like these are most of the tops of the buildings over here on this third, 2/3 up from the bottom. 1/3 up from the bottom is sort of like some other buildings here, like that. And the foreground here in the lower third with a fence. And so that's ours. And the sky is pretty much the top third with 1 or 2 buildings kind of going up into the top third section. And the telephone pole over here too as well. So maybe I'll do, first thing I'll tackle is like, let me get the telephone pole in here. Maybe let me make it a little more, let me make it about, let's see, if we go halfway here. So this is halfway across this way, halfway, and then we go 3/4 over here, 3/4 of the way. That's a quarter, 1/4, 2/4, which is a half, 3/4, and then a whole. So if we're talking inches, it'd be a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch. Just talking space divisions. So for this telephone pole, I'm going to put it right about here. So I don't want to go quite 3/4 and I don't want to go halfway. Let me leave it right about there. And maybe I can lean it a little bit. Maybe I'll lean it into the picture just a little bit, just a tiny bit. I'm going to change what I'm seeing here. You're the artist. You make little changes in your paintings that are going to make you happy and are also going to maybe serve you better when you're doing your watercolor paintings and drawings. You're going to say, oh, I think that'll look better if I maybe make it on a slight angle. So that's our, so I'm just going to do that. That's our telephone pole and the cross member up top, and we're not going to get too worried about much more than that. We'll do some fine brush work later to get our wires, so we're not going to worry about the wires for right now. Let's leave that out. From experience, I know that those wires go in at the very end of the painting. From experience, I know that. That's the only way I know that is by painting and drawing many times these type of scenes with telephone poles and communications poles and wires. I always know those go in last. The very, very fine wires of the communications lines and telephone and all the different electrical wires. So let's leave that for last. Let's get our building started over here. So we'll do a building over here, and I'm just going to rough sketch it. I'm not going to get too worried about perfection. Just going to sort of get the shape of things. So there's a building here, like that. And there's a darker building behind there, like so. Then there's this prominent, large, almost looks like a very large, more ornate and, let's say, older style building. Maybe it's like a landmark building. And then there's a conical roof on top. And there's some, and we don't have to do any three-dimensional or drawings here. Just everything is just, we're just drawing large rectangles here. You can kind of see that. So far, all these are just large rectangles. We have a square here. We have a large cone here, like a conical type shape. You know, almost like a really very, very long pyramid or triangle. And again, we're just going to keep going with this idea of rectangles, just long, elongated rectangles. These are the large cityscape buildings, and we're just doing some of that. And, you know, if you feel gutsy, go for it. Do some three-dimensional, maybe do a couple three-dimensional buildings like that. But don't feel you have to. You could just stick with all rectangles, and if you want to use a ruler, to do this drawing, that's fine too. You could take your ruler and just start doing your rectangles with the ruler. You can do the tops like so. So you can use a ruler and work around your painting like that. And then over here on the bottom, on the right-hand side, there's lower buildings, so there's not many taller buildings over here on the right-hand side. It's a little more in the distance, and we'll have some other type shapes in the background here with smaller buildings like that. So this is closer to us, and then this kind of goes over into the distance, these buildings over here. So we'll make that light. But that's pretty much the idea of it. Can you see how that's pretty much, we've gotten everything in. All the distant buildings we're now complete. Look at that. It's that simple. Just large, elongated rectangles. Just elongated rectangles, and then you had one with, we have one here with the conical roof on the top like that. And there's a little round, there's a round clock on that one. And maybe there's a couple of antennas and lightning rods on tops of building. And some windows. And we'll put in the windows with the brush later. So we'll do brush work. But we'll just put a couple little lines and indications just to remind us, oh, we got to get some of those windows and things on the building. Just to get the happy little windows going. A little bit with our pencil just to remind us, oh, that's right, we got to do some windows on these. We don't want to just have large buildings with no windows. And you can also have you could do a little bit of pencil shading if you see some darks. So you see these dark buildings, these are in shadow. So here in the distance of the painting, there's some deep dark shadows, and that's in the deep part of the buildings where there's all buildings everywhere all around, and not much light is getting into those inner areas of those buildings. So that's where you might take your pencil and just do a little shading just to remind you to put some darks in there. So usually when you add some shading like this, that's going to remind you to make it darker in those areas so that you don't forget to do it when you start painting. Like that. So we're going to make some shaded areas just to remind ourselves, okay, we have to get some darks in here in these buildings, here and there, not everywhere. And so we'll just do that. And we'll get the fence here. So there's a fence. This is in the very foreground here. And this really makes the painting exciting because we have a foreground here. So you almost feel like you're walking around over here in the foreground, maybe looking around, you're doing some sightseeing, maybe you're walking down the street over here and you're looking through this little lot over here with some fencing and things like that. And then you're looking at the beautiful city in the distance there. So I'll put some lines in for the fence. That might be like a wood picket fence style fence there. And we can maybe we can make a shape. Maybe there's a large barrel here. This could be a construction lot where there's a construction that they have, and there's a big pipe here, maybe it's a large drainage pipe that they're just storing on the lot. So we have that there, and some grass and weeds too. So and this makes a nice shape, a little different shape. We have lots of rectangles, and then here we have a round shape, a tube shape too. So you can kind of make that a tube shape if you want. If you'd rather just keep it a round circle, just make one big circle and then leave it just like that. And not much more. You don't have to do much more than that. And then also too, there's some train tracks nearby. So maybe there's some train rails on the other side of this lot right here. So let's make a little X here. So all we do is make an X like that. I need to do that over again. Like that and like this. And that's all we have to do for that X. And then we can draw in the rest of it. So if we just get two lines like so. So you get your first 2 lines started, you do an X. And then once you do your X, then you can draw in and make the rectangles. So we just did rectangles actually. 2 rectangles, just like that. And then I'll make the pole like that. And that'll kind of, that signifies that there's some railroad tracks back over here somewhere. We can't see them right here, but they're there. And we have lots of interesting shapes and buildings. And so now we're pretty much, we have our, I'm going to make this with the ruler. So I just made that wider. And there's a support pole next to this, like that. And you can shade that in a little bit just so you know to paint that in dark. And then maybe just a couple wires so we remember to do those 2 later. And that's it. We have our pencil drawing done. And now you're going to see how beautiful this goes. Once we're done with our pencil drawing, we're going to just get right in here and do some glazing technique, which is we're going to do some light washes over the whole entire paper here. And then we'll go in and start doing some darker washes over the top of the light washes once it dries. So we're going to have a fun time doing the glazing technique on this particular painting, and we'll do other techniques too as we go on the different paintings. But this is the first painting. We're doing a fun city scene here. All right, we'll come right back. I'm just going to take a break and then we'll start painting. Okay, so we'll be right back. Okay, so we're continuing on here. I always want to mention too, you saw how we did this drawing. You know, this pencil drawing is, we had to put some work into it. We put effort into getting it just right, so we kind of have it very close to what we're seeing here. But always remember, once you distill everything down and really look at it from just like a basic abstract type of feel, and I'm just going to use a China marker here, it's really just these buildings are elongated rectangles for the most part, and then you can just see how just elongated rectangles, right? And then there's some over here. These become more like squares and rectangles, smaller versions of these. There's some darker darks in here, in between the buildings. We want to capture that. And then we have a lot here. We were saying a construction lot with maybe a drain pipe maybe that's stored here on the lot, and a fence over here, like so. And then we have a communications pole here, telephone pole with some, and there's a little bit of a brace, a brace for the pole here, and a little bit of ground over here. So that's the basics of it, though. Can you see how that's really just a quick version of what we did here in pencil? We just took our time a little more, but that's really what it is. It's just large rectangles. Large rectangles. Some smaller rectangles and squares over here for the distant buildings over here. These buildings here are a little bit closer to us. Then we have our lot here in the foreground with a drain pipe there, so we could get more detail with that if we wanted to, or just leave it a round circular shape. And then we have a little X crossing for some railroad. There's a railroad over here somewhere beyond this lot, and that's it. So you could draw it quicker like this if you wanted to, in pencil, faster. We took a little more time, but if you want to go quicker, you can. And we'll start painting. We're just going to get our we're going to do our glazing technique. So we're just going to always start out with in our glazing technique, we're always starting out with fresh, clean water. So we don't want to use murky, mucky water that we've been using for a day or two. You always want to keep changing out your water all the time in your water bucket. That'll keep your paintings looking much more fresh and pure looking. So now we're going to use these same colors for the most part. So let's go right in, and first thing we'll do is just some fresh water on the paper. Slosh it on there, throw it on, because this is just the first glazing, which is going to be super light, and we're not going to be fussing around. We're just getting some water on the paper just so we have a good feeling of water flowing across this whole scene. That's it. A little more at the top, just so we have some water to start with up top, and then we're going to mix our colors. We're going to look up here and go, okay, we're going to have some blue, some darker blue there, maybe a little bit of brown mixed in to give us a little bit of a grayed down blue. Then we're going to have a little bit of some gold, maybe some yellow and orange, just to give us a little bit of a golden color. A little bit of red maybe and orange. Okay, so that's a little too much red. I added some more yellow to that. And I think that's still a little bit of brown and a little more yellow. I'm trying to see what that looks like. It still looks more yellow, so I'm going to come up here. That looks better. A little bit of yellow, maybe a little bit of green. I'll usually tend to mix around a little bit until I get that kind of color I'm looking for. It's more of a yellowish green, like that, with a little bit of the golden. I think that looks good. Sort of like that. That's pretty close. Okay, so now we have our colors mixed. Just a little more blue. And we're going to make this a very light wash. See how that color's really light? Or it's not too dark. And that's how we're going to get our first bits of wash on here. And just kind of flow it on the paper. That's all this is. You're just flowing your colors onto the paper that you've pre-wet. So you pre-wet your paper like that. And you're letting all the water and the paint do the work. You're not doing much work other than dabbing it on. Now you're seeing I'm working in some of those golden colors here. Across like that. Let it flow on down the paper. And that's about it, really. Let's go with a little purple. And since I'm putting purple down here a little bit for that cooler feel, I'll put a little bit of purple up here too, in the top of the painting. And you can kind of see I've just let the water, help the water flow down the page is really all I did. And then we can get some red and orange here, a little bit of brown mixed in. And we'll just do, okay, we'll get a little bit of the gold, the brownish red buildings. There's a couple brown and red. So again, I'm going to try to start to get a little bit of the other colors just on there a little bit anyway. So I want those other colors to flow around the painting just a little bit. And I think once we do that, and a few up there like so, just to mix those colors around. And that's it. You have to let it go now. You cannot work anymore. Once you get these first bits of watercolor wash on the page, that's when you have to let it go. You can't keep mixing it around and painting over it. You've got to just do it one time, quick, like you saw. We just wet the paper here and there, a little more up at the top, and then we just started adding our colors here into the painting, onto the paper, and let the water just flow on down real easy as we go. You're not really doing a lot of hard work here. You're just letting the water and the paint flow around on the paper to get that real wet looking watercolor where it's flowing everywhere, all the colors and the washes. That's what you're looking for. You don't want to do much detail work at all now for this first glazing. Now we're going to let it sit, and we'll come back and start doing the darker darks. As you can see here, there's many darker darks in this painting, and that's going to be our next glazing. So the first glazing is all the underpainting, the really light washes. Okay, so that's really the basics of it. So we'll come back in just a second, and we'll start doing our second glazing. The only thing here is you have to let this dry 100%. So you could do it two ways. You can leave this go for about 2 hours, 2-3 hours, let it dry that way naturally, or you can use a blow dryer. So what I might do is I might shut the volume off on my camera, and then I'll just use the blow dryer, just so you can see that I'm using like a blow dryer to dry off my painting. So it just reminds you that you do have the option of letting it dry naturally or using a blow dryer to speed up that process, so that you can maybe take 5 minutes, blow dry it off, and then you can go back and start painting, 5 or 10 minutes later. Okay, all right, so we'll be right back. And I always mention, are you having a fun time watching this video? Are you enjoying it? I hope you are, and if it's your first time here, really want to welcome you and say thanks so much for coming by. We're always doing great work here on my channel. Extreme Beginners series especially, we're really focusing on the beginner watercolor artist here, just starting out. You don't need high level details of things and all kinds of technical stuff that's going to blow your mind and you won't be able to follow it. You need simple steps to follow that are going to get you the results you need, and that's exactly what we did here. We did not do anything really super difficult here. We did the pencil drawing first. That's pretty much straightforward. And then we're doing the glazing technique. So we talk about glazing technique. Wet the whole paper, wet the paper with lots of water, a little more at the top, and then you get your colors you're looking to match here, and you just flow them onto the paper and let the water do all the work and let it flow on down just like that. And now you're ready for part 2, which is the second glazing over the top of this one, which is going to be the darker darks, the darks. And we'll have that second portion of this painting underway in just a few seconds. Okay, so we'll just dry this off and then we'll be right back. Oh, and I always mention too, if you can, feel free to subscribe. The subscribe button is right there on the right-hand side below the screen here. This way you don't miss out on any videos. We're creating videos every week on my channel here, and so if you click that subscribe button, all it's going to do is just let you know the next time you come onto YouTube in a couple days. If I have a new video out, you'll see it, and it'll be right there on your YouTube page saying Chris made another video. And that's all it does. Is the subscribe button doesn't do anything other than let you know I made a new video. So don't worry about it. You're not getting any emails or text messages or anything like that. It's basically just YouTube's way of saying you like my channel and you want to see my videos. So YouTube's gonna put my videos in your channel so that when you open up YouTube, you'll see my videos first, and it'll show you Chris made a new video, and here it is. Okay, so we'll be right back. Okay, so we just basically turned the volume off, so you didn't hear the noise of the blow dryer, but I just used a small heat gun / blow dryer, hair dryer, to dry off this first glazing, this first wash, and you can see it's completely dry. That's what you're looking for, 100% complete. The paper has to be 100% dry before you go in and start doing our second washes. The next thing we're going to do is we're just going to kind of get clear on where is the light coming from, because when we're doing these shadows now, because we're doing the darker darks, which means we're doing darker shadows and things like that, let's just make sure we kind of get the feel for where the light's coming from. So here you can kind of see in the picture that the right side of these buildings are in light and the left side are in shadow. So let's just say overall, we'll put a little insignia here like that with our light fixture, our spotlight. And there we go. We're just going to put a light like that. It's a very subtle thing. You can barely see it there, but I did put it up here, just showing that the light's shining this way. So the light's coming from this direction across the picture, the painting. And then once we have that, that helps us a lot, because now we know when we're going in and doing our shadow colors, we know where to keep them. So we're going to go in and I'm going to use the brush that comes with our set here, the Prang. I like to mention, this is a great watercolor set. It's the Prang Oval 16 set. 16 colors, obviously, and semi-moist watercolors, and that means basically you just open up you don't have to do any special preparations for your palette. When you're done at the end of your session of painting, you can leave it just like it is, open, that's fine. You can close it if you want, whatever you want to do, but basically the next time you start up painting again in a day or two or in a couple hours, you just take your spritzer bottle and do a little spritz of the paint on top, and that's it. And then your paints become activated and you'll be able to get rich darks just like this in this painting by just spritzing a little bit on the tops of these colors and then mixing up and going in and doing your painting. And of course, this is a great bargain. For maybe $10, $15, you get a great watercolor set that's going to last you a long time. You'll do lots of paintings, hundreds of paintings you can create with this one set. And it's, again, very affordable. And if you're a beginner, you're not wanting to go out and spend thousands of dollars on art supplies. You want to kind of stay with a humble approach of start out with inexpensive art supplies at first, get your feet wet, try everything out, keep working at it, and then you'll appreciate it more in a year from now when you maybe want to upgrade to do some better brushes or some better paints. That's all. So we're going to start working with our brush that comes with the set, the Prang set, and we're just going to go in and we're going to say, all right, we've got some black. I see some black, some dark brown, some blues, some purples. Let's start getting some darks in here. Here's some black mix. This goes a long way, this black here. It's very, very dark. I always try to keep a paper towel or tissue to dry off the brush a little bit so that I don't get too much water in my mixes, because we're doing darker mixes now, so we don't want to have, we want to keep these mixes nice and dark and rich. So let's do that. So now I'm just going to get my top of the building here, and then I'm going to rinse off the brush, dry off the brush with the water, and then just sort of mix this on down to make a little bit of a lighter color, a little more of a lighter blackish brown, like that. And there's the clock on the top of the, maybe a little bit of purple in there, I think I see. So I'll mix in a little bit of that purple color. And then let's see, we have some purple and some blue over here with some green. Let's see if we can, we're going to make a dark in here. This is in between the two buildings, so I'm going to take my brush real carefully and then just maybe slide the brush down like so. And I basically just hold my hand on the paper and slide my hand like this. So I'm sliding my hand like this while I have the brush pressed down like that, and then I slide my hand. You can get a pretty good straight line like that. So that's a pretty good technique to use. And there's some more. There's a darker building over here like so. So now's where we can, now is a perfect time to paint around this. Perfect time to paint around that railroad sign. Because we have a dark back here like so. So that's what we want to do. We want to try to negative shape paint, as they call it, which means you're just painting around an object and the object appears when you paint around it. So we paint it around this X like so, and then it appears, and we say, oh wow, look at that. So that's a building like that. And we have some darker darks. Let's go with some darker darks here. And let's say if the light is coming from this direction, then this is going to be like that, darker in here, like so. And then the fence over here is a little darker, brown, black. Let's use some brown, some black, some red, orange, red, orange. And I'm going to make some fence type like this quickly. Like that. Splash some water on there, maybe a little bit of orange. Mix some colors around. That's all. Mix some colors around. That's all you have to do. Like that. So I use some brown, some orange, a little bit of purple in there. Put a little bit of purple in here too. There's a little bit of light. Maybe somehow it's kind of maybe going through the fence. Maybe there's a hole in the fence here and you'll see some light peeking through. Just like that. That looks good. And you can kind of see we're starting to get some darks around the picture. And then over here, there's some more darks. Now you have to be really careful. If you're painting down here, you might want to let this go until you're finished with the up here. So if you do move around your paint around your painting a lot, you just have to always remember that you don't want to lean your hand into the paint that you've just painted. So that's where you have to kind of really be careful. So I would say if you can work from the left over this way, it's much better. I kind of broke my own rules here that I have usually. I'll try to usually start on one side and then just work my way across the painting from left to right. Or if you're left-handed, you'd work over on this side if you're left-handed and start here and just work your way across the painting this way. This way you're not leaning into the paint. So just a little thing to remember. So I'm going to stick with that game plan now and start to maybe work over here on the left side. Like that. I'm getting in some of these darks, as you can see. And there's another bit of dark over here. Like that. So I'm just going to make some shapes of darks. Mixing around colors too. I don't want to have the same dark everywhere. So you can kind of see how I did this. Bluish green over here for the dark. Then more of a brownish black over here for this dark. So I'm kind of mixing around the darks. Then you can mix some middle tones, so it's not quite that dark, and you can start doing some of these darks over here. You can even take a new brush. Let's Let's use this medium-sized square brush or flat brush like that. Like this, and then let's get some of these. There we go. And you just have a good time, work around the paint. You know, you add in some darks here and there. Over here, some blues and darks. And now's when you you don't worry too much. You just get some color on the paper. I'm going to do this over here. So this is the shadow side of the building, like that. Okay. And that should be about good. So you can see we've got a lot of darks in here now. Pretty much where we see them in the painting. And then we have a little more dark over here. And I just added a little more to the fence there, a little more interesting color. And a little bit of yellow, so we're going to make some put some yellow in the bottom here for the grass. So there's maybe some grass over here in this lot, like so. Let's go in with some really, really dark black and just put that more of a darker shape there, like so. Like that. And we will, let's see what else we can do. This is pretty much, I think all we need to do now is let this just dry a little bit. We might be able to, let's continue to work here. Let's use our Simply Simmons number 6 brush with just some medium tones here with some black and blue and brown. Just mix up a nice kind of a grayish color, dry off the brush a little bit. And let's just do a couple, we're going to do some windows on our buildings here. Just quickly, let's do those. Just have a little fun, just dab on some window shapes like that. Like that. Put in some windows over here. Here's some interesting windows up top. Like that. Like that there. And there's a couple of these are just a couple other bits of details to this building. You could add a few more little dots here and there. Like that. And over here too, let's do some windows. Like that. And there's some windows over here too. There we go. You can have a little bit of fun doing some quick dots like that. You could do some quick dots, just hit and miss. Don't worry about it. Doesn't have to be perfect. The quicker you do them like this, maybe the better they're going to look, probably. And then you just go in like that. A couple of these lines A couple more things over here. Maybe there's some lines like that. And I think that's looking very good. Let's do some. We'll do some bright color, like we're seeing in the picture. Like that. Then maybe we will take some paper towel and then just clean off a spot on the palette. And then we're going to empty our water. Get some fresh, clean water again. We want to make sure we're not using muddy water now. We want to kind of keep this. So I'm just going to fill in some areas there. And just a little bit of darker darks down here on the bottom. We have to remember we're going to do the telephone pole here. Let's get that completed. And let's try to do something a little different. I have a piece of wood molding, wood trim from around the house. And what I'll do is I'll take that wood trim. You can use anything. You can use a ruler. Let's use the ruler. Let's try to use a ruler here. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, so I'm going to take a ruler, and I'm going to hold the ruler on an angle just so that I have it. Maybe I'll take a piece of tape. I'll roll the tape, and I'll put it on top. That's too big. Let's do it on top of this. So it's a smaller roll of tape. I put it on the table, and then I rest my ruler on top of that tape so that it's above the paper, like that. And this is how you can get a, so I'm going to use brown and black, maybe a little bit of red, a little bit of blue. So I'm just going to mix then what I do is I take a paper towel, dry off my brush. You don't want too much paint on the brush, so you dry off the brush. And then you take your brush. This might be a little difficult. Maybe I would say let's not do that. That's going to be too difficult to try to do it that way. A good way to do this is I'm going to move my phone, and I'm just going to take my hand on the side of the paper and just do a little bit at a time. And just come down the page like this and just slide my hand. And then I'm going to skip a spot like that, and then start again here. So I'm just sliding my hand along the paper. And that's how I get this done here. And then this way, that's easy. This is an angle like that, not a big deal. And then up here like so. And then our little isolators up here like that. And then we rinse off the brush again, dry it off. And then we can maybe fill in this a little bit here with some lighter wash like that. So you can see how we did that. And I'm thinking this looks pretty good. We can come back over here. We'll put our picture back up. Okay, and then let's do a little bit of purple and brown and black. So we're going to get purple, brown, and black. We dry off the brush on some tissue so that the brush is basically has just a little bit of paint in it. And then we can do some of the, we could do this like that. And there you have it. Perfect. I hope you enjoyed this painting, and we're going to do 3 more. So we're just getting started. So try this one, work on it, get it done. You can do this one, and then once we're done with this one, you're moving on to another one. In this video, we're going to do 4 paintings. This is our cityscape. Hope you enjoyed this one here in particular. It's a lot of fun. If you want to add in a little more bits of interesting color, you can do that. Okay, we can do that there. So I'm just going to start looking over here and saying, all right, can we add a little more enhancement to this? Yes, we can. So we enhance it a little bit with a little more color. It looks like we can add more color to this. Like that. Maybe a little more purple over here. So you can always step back and look at your painting once you're kind of done and say, can I add anything to it that it's going to make it better? And we noticed that, yes, we did add some more color, and then there was a little bit of purple over here maybe. And then once we asked that question, can we add a little more color, because it looked like there's more color in this compared to this. And then that's all we did, is we went in and added some more color. And I think we're now I think we added that a little bit of color that it needed. And I'll just add a little couple splashes for a little bit of interesting effect. And that is good. Let us a couple of and I just added a little bit of darker sky wash there. Just so maybe we can have a little bit of color there. And also light on the side of that building. So that's what we did there. We just added a little bit of color, darker wash, so that we can get a little bit of light on the side of the building over here. You kind of see how I did that? Just a little bit of light there. Looks good. Okay, we're going to get started on our next painting. We're going for 4 paintings here. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4. 4 paintings, everybody. Let's keep going. And I'm just going to rearrange my setup here so we can get started over here on this side. And we'll cover this with some paper so we don't ruin this. And I'm going to dry this too with a blow dryer first. Then I'll cover it with some paper, some printer paper, okay? So basically that's my game plan. When I go away for a few minutes and then I come back, once I go away, I'm going to dry this off with a blow dryer, cover it with some printer paper and tape it down, and then leave this side over here with our new paper. And then we'll have our phone here so we could use our phone to work from, and we'll do our second painting. Okay, so we'll be right back. All right, so I figured why not share how I'm going to do my next painting by lifting up my printer paper we had over here. So I sectioned off my watercolor paper, of course, in 4 sections, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I just taped off around the whole perimeter of this sheet of it's actually a pad, a watercolor pad of paper. And I just went around the whole outside perimeter with watercolor tape, artist tape. And so everything has tape around the border of each of the sections. So now we're going to cover this with our printer paper. So we're just taking our printer paper from here and then just transferring it over here so that we can cover our painting that we just completed. We don't want to make a mess of that and get splashes on it and smudges and all that good stuff. We're going to try to keep that looking good. So that's what we do. We cover over that with our printer paper. So now we have this covered, and then we'll just take our phone and set our phone there. So this is where we're going to have our phone set up. I have a small piece of plastic just to cover my phone so I don't splash and drip on my phone. And let's do our second painting. Let's see what we have here. All right, so the first one we did was the city scene. Let's see, what can we do? Let's do, let's do like a country scene. So let's do this. Looks like a barn style structure. So we're going to do this, and this one's going to be more, we'll do the glazing technique on this one as well. And this one is going to be fun. Let's get started with our drawing. So basically, I'm going to zoom out just a touch here so we have, okay, so we can see pretty much all over here fine. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're just going to, I'm going to make a border around my tape just so you can kind of see my border of my painting. Like that. And we're going to take this and just basically draw what we see here over here. So the first thing I notice is, again, we're working with thirds. Thirds seem to really be a beautiful, natural way to divide up a painting, the sections of a painting. So 1/3 here, 1/3 here, and 1/3. So you have the bottom third, middle third, and top third. Okay, and now when I look at this painting, the bottom third is about the tops of the hills. Then about halfway is actually the rooftops, about there. And then the top half even is all sky. So it looks pretty good the way it's set up. So we're going to just start here and say, okay, the hills are over here, so we're going to come over this way. And then over here there's some trees over here, like so. And then I'm going to start my roof over here. And I'm going to come across like this with our roof. And then from there we're going to come down like so. Then just about above here, we're going to have that roof here. And then we come up like so, like that. And if you need to erase a little bit here and there, sometimes, you might say, oh, I did not do that perfectly the way I wanted to. I want to get this more like that. That's better. And you can kind of see I have the for the most part, we have the roofs looking good, the building looking okay. We're going to do and this is just, I found this online. I looked up online. I typed in, I think, country farmhouse paintings, and I found this, and I thought it looked pretty good. I think you'll agree. It looks pretty exciting, and it's kind of simple too, right? It's not too difficult of a painting to do and drawing. So I'm just drawing my, again, this is mostly rectangles. Rectangle here pretty much, rectangle here, kind of like a rectangle here, and then you have a triangle here, like that. So you have a triangle shape here, And that's pretty much the shapes of everything. And then up here is more like a rectangle up here, like so. Like that. And then we'll just remember the light is actually coming from here. So let's make our light insignia here. I think you can see that. I'm just making my light insignia. Maybe I'll do it in some magic marker, like this. Okay, so that's the light coming from the right-hand side. And this is pretty good here. So we have some land over here. There's some figures over here, but I'm not going to paint those in. And then it looks like there's a road coming across here, like so. And it looks like there's a... like that. So you can kind of see we just went in, did a simplified version of this drawing here. And what we'll do is actually, there's a chimney there. What we'll do is we'll just keep this one simple. We're going to make sure we key in on the darks and the lights of this painting. You can kind of see the sky is very light. And then you have some lights in this roof over here. And some lights here on the road. And then there's a lot of middle tones. The grass is green, and the middle tones here with the trees, and then the dark, so the shadows on the rooftop here. So we're gonna, I'm gonna lift up a little bit of this pencil line here. I went over that. So I just wanted to. Okay. All right, so we got the pencil sketch done here. I think this looks good. And we're going to get started with our painting next. So let's take a quick break. And then once we take a break, we'll come back, we'll clean up the palette, and we'll start painting. And we're going to do this again with the glazing technique. Okay, let's get started. First thing we're going to do is get some fresh, clean water. I always mention, if you have some muddy water and you're starting out with your first glazing, your first wash on your paper, you definitely want to change your water. Get yourself some fresh, crystal clear water in your water pail, your water bucket. Then you're going to be much better off. Then the second thing we're going to do is decide what kind of brush we're going to use on this. I think we'll use our standard flat brush that we usually use. It's about 5/8 of an inch. It comes in that set with it's the Princeton Art and Brush Company, and they have sets. Plastic. It's a little plastic bag that comes with 5 or 6 brushes like this for maybe $5 or $10. Great bargain. Synthetic brushes, which are absolutely fantastic for a beginner watercolor artist. You're an extreme beginner watercolor artist. You don't want to have brushes that are natural hair because they hold too much water and you wind up flooding out your paper too much and making too many wet washes that are going to not really give you the darks that you need when you're creating paintings. So this gives you an advantage as a beginner watercolor artist. If you're using synthetic brushes, and it doesn't have to be these, it can be any synthetics, you're going to be better off with those style brushes, the synthetic hair brushes. So again, I'm going to start out with this one here. I guess it makes it easy if you are starting out and you find these online. You'll just notice they kind of look like wooden handles. They're made again by Princeton Art and Brush Company, and I don't get any money or anything from any of the companies that I talk about, or palettes or brushes. I'm just sharing what I use and I think is the best, and you can research stuff too and figure out what you like. So we're going to start out here and put some fresh clean water on our paper. Again, we're doing the sky wash, and then we're going to take the sky wash colors and just pretty much work them on down through the painting. And I'll just put some fresh clean water everywhere pretty much everywhere. I I don't cover the whole paper with water. I just, cover most of it. Kind of spotty. And then I add extra at the top. Once I'm done kind of doing like a little bit of spotty water clean, crystal clear water on my paper the first time, I just kind of blot it on down, and then I add extra one more time up at the top, just the top up here, and that is all you need. Then let's spritz our palette and wipe it down a little bit. I meant to do that, but let's do it. We're working quick here. Let's do that. Okay. Paper towel. So we're just going to, starting a new painting, we want a new, fresh, clean palette to start off with. So let's do that. Okay, good. And let's start out. What are we seeing over here? We're seeing some beautiful blues for the sky, like that, with some orange and brown. So some orange and brown. So now I'm just going to mix out what I think I'm going to need. And I think that looks good. We have a light wash. We don't need a really... And then we're going to see that the angles are going this way across the painting. The sky kind of has some angles to it. So let's do that. Let's just get those angles across the painting like that. Let's mix in a little bit of the darker. And then as they go across, they go a little bit more straight. So you kind of see how I started more on an angle like this with my brush strokes, like this. And then as I come down the page, they get more level, like this. Like that. Like that. That looks good. And then let's just finish out the... That's all. Just bring on that colors, those colors you see here. Just flow them on down the rest of the painting. But remember, it's light. You can see that, right? How light this is? And this is going to dry lighter too. So it's going to wind up looking like this, pretty light. The thing is, when you paint watercolor, it always dries lighter. So if you put it on a little bit like darker, right? Because it's going to lighten up from here. It's definitely going to lighten up. Usually, if you make it this dark on your paper, it's going to lighten up to this type of look, which is pretty bright. So just remember that, that it will dry lighter. So if you go a little bit darker than you think you might need to go, you'll be okay. And then we're going to take a little bit of brown, a little bit of orange, a little bit of more blue, and then we're just going to do a couple like that. Can you see how I'm doing that right now? While the paint is damp on the paper, but you only have a few minutes to do this. We can't do this much longer. That's really about it. And that gives us that really nice really good looking variation in the sky, so it's not too bland and boring. Does that make sense? You know, adding that little bit of dark in there like I just did is going to add a lot to it. Okay. Perfect. Okay, let's let this dry 100%. Now's the time. If you have a hair dryer, you're going to use the hair dryer and completely dry this 100%. So that it's completely dry, and then we can come back in and start doing our darker darks. As you can see here, we have quite a few darker darks we need to put into this painting to finish it up. But we're really already halfway there because we have a lot of beautiful wash for our first wash, our first glazing, and that's the main thing. You get this first really light glazing over your whole painting. You've got a good base to work with, and then now you're just going to work on getting your darks in. The darker shadows, some of the darker trees, the roof, the shadow from the tower on the roof, and some of these other shadows, and then we'll be pretty much in good shape. All right, so let's take a break, and we'll come back in just a minute or two. I'm going to use the blow dryer to dry this off, and then once that's completed, I can start my second wash. And I always lift up some of that puddles of water that are at the bottom of the paper. Try to lift those up right away so that it doesn't back run into your paper. Okay, and there we go. And again, thumbs up the video if you like it so far. Leave comments if you think you want to leave some comments, some questions, whatever. And I always say, if you can, if you want to subscribe, on the right-hand side down below here, there's a subscribe button. All that does is just YouTube's going to alert you that I have created a new video. So next week, or you know, in the middle of the week, or next week on the weekend, you'll just notice that when you open up your YouTube channel, when you go on YouTube, you'll see a little alert that says Chris Petri made a new video. And then this way you can check it out, watch it. You can work along with us here. It's up to you. You're the artist. You're going to be working at your own pace and doing your own projects and working along with our videos too as well, and working along with us all here. So, but I always mention subscribing is really great. It helps me as an artist on YouTube, and as well, you'll get my updates all the time so that you don't lose me. And sometimes I know if you're painting along with us on this video, and if you don't subscribe, sometimes you won't get an alert, and then you won't know how to find me, and you might forget my name, and then chances are you might lose me and not be able to find me again on YouTube. So once you hit subscribe, it also means that you're not going to lose me on YouTube. You'll always have me in your YouTube channel settings, so that you'll always have me there, and you can find me in the subscriptions section of your YouTube channel as well. Okay, YouTube's a huge place. Millions upon millions of people on there, different artists. So if you do subscribe, you'll definitely keep track of what I'm doing and what we're working on here. Okay, so let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Okay, we are back and we're going strong here. 4 paintings, not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 paintings. Yes, this is an Extreme Beginners video, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us here. And you can break up these paintings in a week or 2 of time, or you can paint everything, draw and paint everything in one weekend. You set your own pace. You're the artist. You do your schedule with your paintings as you need to. My point is, if you're beginning out, if you're just starting out in watercolor, your best way to get good and to get familiar with watercolor is to do a lot of paintings. So that's why we're doing 4 here. We're just going to keep working on the basic fundamentals of watercolor as we go, going over pretty much the same techniques and methods through each painting. And the more you repeat something, the more familiar it becomes with your line of thinking, with your mentality, the way you approach your paintings and your drawings as you go in watercolor. So all this is just a way to fast track to get you a really good start in watercolor. Because if you can get a good start with watercolor, paint a lot of paintings quickly, you'll get the hang of it really fast. If you kind of just do 1 or 2 paintings every once in a while, every couple months, you're going to probably wind up not painting much and probably wind up giving it up, because you're not going to feel like you're mastering the medium that you're working in. But if we continue to do these type of videos where we just get in and do 2 paintings, 3, 4 paintings at one time, you're going to start to really make a lot of progress. And that's the key. I want you to make great progress with your paintings. So again, we're doing our second painting, a beautiful kind of like a farm scene. This might be like a farm building here. And we have like a farmhouse and a barn next to it, conjoined. And we're doing the glazing technique for our second painting. We did our first painting in the glazing technique. This is our second painting, same thing, glazing technique, first wash over the whole painting. And then we let that dry 100%. So it's dry. You can use your blow dryer if you have, or you could let it dry naturally for a couple hours. Since you're just starting out and you're painting, I suggest using a blow dryer and just drying it off fast and continue working as you go, because you want to get a lot of paintings done fast. That's the way you kind of get better at watercolors. Do lots of paintings. Just keep keep doing it. Don't worry about it. If the first painting comes out lousy, that's okay. You're going to start your second one here. If this one doesn't come out good, chances are you got another third one you're working on. It's going to come out better. And again, take breaks, please. Please take breaks. Maybe you're going to do one a day, one of these paintings a day if you feel that's your good pace, that you feel is good. Maybe you want to do all these in one day. That's fine too. It's up to you. But let's keep going here. So we have our first glazing done. Now I'm going to use my Simply Simmons number 6 to start working our roof colors. And we're going to start seeing how the light is going to come to life here in this painting as we start painting in the darks. So let's look at the colors here for the most part and say, what are we seeing here? We got lots of similar colors that we started with. We have the blue and the brown. And then we have some greens. Let's start mixing in some greens up here. So we'll use these two greens up here, the darker green and the lighter green. Let's add a little brown to that just to mellow it out a little bit. And we have some darker darks. Let's get some brown in there, some brown up here, some purple and blue, darker blue and purple, and some black. We'll put the black over here in the corner. We don't want to use, that's very, very powerful. This black in this palette is very, very, very dark. So we want to make sure we kind of keep that over here and maybe not mix it up too much over here because that'll really darken stuff up really tremendously. So we want to be careful with that. So we have a good mixture here. We have some blues and grays and browns. And let's start doing our roof. So now the roof here is we could do this for our roof. We could start making some lines for our roof. We're going to add some blues. Let's mix up the okay, so we're just getting some and I'm going to mix in some greens, browns, blues. Maybe we'll get some warmer colors in here too, some reds and oranges. Let's get some reds and oranges going down here. Leave some of those white lines in there. Okay. And then you can kind of see how we were working the colors. Oranges, let's do some oranges and some purple. some blues. You can kind of see we're really mixing lots of colors here. Essentially, whatever you mix in your palette and you take and put into your palette, that'll be your colors you're going to really start using as you go through your painting. Like that. And then more of the same. Okay, this is a little bit darker. You can kind of see the leave it mixing and mingling. Don't worry about it being perfect, all the shapes. Like that. Put a little bit of wash on the roof here. But leave it sort of light. And that looks pretty good. So that is pretty much fine. Let's get some greens and some blue. This is sort of a bluish green over here. That's a little bit of green mixed with some brown. And we're just going to layer some of this. So a little more yellow in your mix here, and you can kind of see right away that looks a little bit closer. It's a little brighter green. These are a little cooler, the colors back here. And then we're just going to take some of these colors here and just kind of go across the painting, mix in some oranges. You know, you can take your time and maybe do a little more dialing in your colors a little bit more if you want. I'm going to just use some very, very light brown here and leave the white of the paper. So very, very light. And then some brown and green. And black even too. Over here, this is some more. There's some bushes and things over here. Like that. Maybe we take a little bit of splashing there. Like that. So we are really doing some green, a little bit of orange, like that. And then again, some more black. We're going to make a purple, let's say purple and black here. And we're just going to get a little more of a darker shadow over here. And that's that shadow that comes across here. Like that. So I just wanted to get that little bit of the darker shadow on that roof. Like that. Maybe a little bit of darker shadows under here too. Like that. And then we could add a little darker darks for the windows here. Like that. And then you can see we've got this painting completed already. Look at that. That's all we needed to do, really. Maybe just a little bit of on the top here, there's the lightning rod on top of this bit of the tower. You know, we can make a little, maybe a darker door over here, something like that. That looks a little better. And if you have a problem where you have some paint smudging, you take a little bit of tissue or paper towel and just blot it up. And then continue making the door over here. So we have a door over here with our dark black. Like that. Maybe a window, another window over here. Like that. And you can make a darker dark there to sort of make this a little bit of a clear line over here by this side of the wall on the building, on this house. And I think that's it. I think we have a finished painting. Everyone, this is just our second painting. We have 2 more to go. Let's get excited. Let's take a break, of course. Take lots of breaks. And again, you can break these down again into maybe 1 painting per day, maybe 2 paintings per day. Or if you want to go for the gusto and go for all 4 in one day, even better yet, because the more you paint, the more you do these compositions and practice your painting skills, the better you're going to get really, really quickly. And then you'll really have a better chance of being more excited about watercolor, and you'll continue to paint. And that's what my goal is here, is to make sure that you all really get a good start with watercolors and continue to paint and have it be a really great thing in your life where you'll always have something that you can have for fun when you're maybe have some free time and you're kind of bored and you're not sure what you want to do. You can always pick up your paints, your brushes, your pencils. You can do some drawings. You can always do some quick paintings like this. You can go on vacation. You can take some things on vacation with you, some paints, your paint set, your brushes, your pencil, some papers. You bring a sketchbook with you, and you just have you do some renditions of some things you're seeing on your vacation, which is really exciting. You can do that too as well. Or if you have some weekend getaways you like to do, or visit friends and family, you can bring your art gear with you and a little duffel bag or a little small duffel, and you can actually do some artwork as you're experiencing your life, and you'll have a fun time doing it. Okay, so let's come right back and we'll wrap up things here, and we'll switch around our paper so that we can start our next 2 paintings. Okay, so we'll be right back and we'll rearrange as we get started with our next painting. Hey everybody, just a quick informational. I'm really excited. I've been invited to the Thousand Island Arts Center to teach a workshop this summer. It's August 9th, 10th, and 11th, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. and it's a daytime workshop, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to have an absolutely fantastic time. I'm going to put up the itinerary in just a second too as well, but I wanted you to have the Thousand Island Arts Center phone number so you can call to register, or you can also register online. That's up to you. Their phone number is 315-686-4123. Again, their phone number is 315-686-4123. Or you can also register and look up all the information online at TIARTSCENTER.org. Again, their website is TIARTSCENTER.org. I'll put the itinerary up here so you can I'll scroll it. I'm not going to read it. I'll just kind of scroll it up so you can kind of see the class description. And you can look this up online too. I encourage everybody to look for the brochure. If you go to the website, you'll see a brochure button. You click on that brochure button, you'll see my course, as well as other courses if you can't happen to make these dates, but you still want to take a watercolor class or watercolor course and workshop. And there's also an online course for watercolor artists. So if you're interested in doing online watercolor courses, they have those as well. That's something this is a great resource, everyone, for your watercolor art. I know some of you mentioned that you wanted to inquire about online art and watercolor painting classes. I'm not doing them right now. I'm really looking forward to maybe in the future doing some online courses, but right now I'm just not geared up for that right now. So they have them though for those that want to do online courses. But just a great resource, and beautiful historic area, beautiful scenery, water and boats everywhere, beautiful architecture, shopping. There's museums. So that's the itinerary. And I hope you'll all make it out to the workshop. And again, we're going to have a great time, tons of fun drawing and painting in watercolor. So I hope to see you there. And let's get back to our watercolor painting. All right, we're doing the Extreme Beginners Marathon series here. We're doing 4 beautiful paintings. We're completed now with 2. So let's start to rearrange our setup here. Essentially, I had a large watercolor pad of paper that I divided into 4 sections for the most part. So now you're going to see, we're going to remove. Now this is where you have to be careful when you remove the tape. That one got a little bit. Go real slow when you remove the tape. It'll tend to, if you go real slow in removing the tape, it'll be neat when you remove it. If you go fast, it'll tear some of your painting apart. So don't do that. And there we go. Okay, so you can kind of see. That's our first 2 paintings. And there we go. And then I'm simply going to take my pad of paper. And this is actually, I thought it was Fabriano. It's actually our Arteza paper. So this is really good paper. Fun to paint on. If you're a beginner, use whatever you can. Your paper, try to use the best paper you can for what you can afford. And paper really goes a long way as far as using better paper. Really helps your paintings go easier and they look better, easier to paint. with good paper. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. Piece of printer paper, and we cover the bottom section of our paper so we don't splash on there and make a mess on our, and then we put our tape across. So there we have the bottom portion covered, which is important. And then from this point, I'll make sure that I use some tape. I use some orange Scotch heavy duty tape, painter's tape, and I just tape down my pad, make sure my pad doesn't move around. You always want to make sure your pad of paper or your paper doesn't slide around on you when you're painting, because that'll ruin your paintings if your paper moves around on you when you're painting. So you want to make sure that's secure. So we just secure the top of the pad, and then we'll tape over here. So the best thing to do here is I have my thin tape. So my thin tape, I use 2 stripes of thin tape along here. One there, and then another one next to that. Okay, so I have two thin layers of tape in the center of these 2 paintings. And then I just go around the outside edge with normal tape. Like that. Across the top. And one on the side, just like this. Okay, now we have them all set up. Everything's taped. So we have a nice border around all of our paintings. And then we'll take this and cover this here. Like that. That's why we have this right hand side clean watercolor paper. Stays clean, no splashes, no smudges on that paper. We're going to do that. It's our last painting here. And this is our third painting right here. We have this open. So this is the only section of watercolor paper on our pad that isn't covered. So we have everything else covered with printer paper and tape, so that we make sure we cover everything else. And then we're going to take this here. We're going to do flowers next. So we're going to take our phone, and I'm going to dial up my picture I found online. I found a picture of some really kind of abstract looking flowers. It looks like roses. So we're going to do this. It's going to be more of a fun abstract style. We're not going to get into super, realistic detail. Let's just have fun with these. We'll create a little bit of some little section of flowers here. We'll just have fun with this and see where it leads to. So first thing we do, now that we're kind of getting started, I'm going to put my plastic over my phone. So I have some plastic I put over my phone so I don't splash any paint onto my phone. I'm going to spritz my paints quick, and I'm going to spritz the palette so that we can clean off our palette. Start off with a fresh, clean palette with no paints at all, because we were mixing lots of colors before in our previous painting, and we want to make sure we start out with fresh, clean colors. Okay, now we're going to continue with our marathon here of watercolor painting, and this is fun. This is the Extreme Beginner series, of course, and let's do our pencil drawing first. So I'm just going to sharpen up my pencil here. I use a 6B pencil, which is kind of more, it's a darker lead, a 6B, so that you can see when I'm drawing a little better. So let's just start out. Here is our first rose. Here is right over on this side. Like that. That's the first rose here we have, with the petal over here. And then over here we have a few more. We have a rose over here, and then we have another one here. And that is the stem there. And we're going to have some shadows over here. So this is pretty much a vase that is near some curtains or a wall behind. So we're going to have some shadowing that goes with this painting. And then there's another, this is more of a larger white flower with some red in it. So we're going to, like that. And then there's the, okay. So the fun of this is the flowers are sort of on the right-hand side of this composition, and they kind of lean into the picture frame like this. And then over here is more of the background. So this is really, again, a more fun, abstract style painting for flowers. We're kind of getting away from some of that architectural stuff we were just doing. You know, we did buildings and we did like that farmhouse. So when you do, you do a couple paintings of farmhouses and some city scenes, some buildings, some high rises and skyscrapers like we did. Now's a good time just to have some fun. We're going to do a little more colorful flowers with some shadows, and we're not going to really work too hard on this one. We're going to kind of have more of a freer, fun experience, less challenges with architectural style, things like that. You're doing more free flowing, fun flower shapes. So we just got our pencil sketch in. I think that's good enough for what we need to start getting in our paints. So we're going to take a quick break. Once we come back, we'll start mixing our colors, and we're going to do this one a la prima. So now we're going to change our method and technique a little bit with our painting here. We're just going to paint this all at one time. We're not going to do a lot of washes and overwashes and glazings as we did on the first two paintings. So you'll notice this one's a little different. This one might be, a good experience to try too as well. Doing the alla prima method, I paint in the alla prima method a lot. That's mostly my style, alla prima. But I do the glazing technique quite a bit too. So familiar with both, really exceedingly familiar with both techniques. So let's take a break and we'll start with our painting. Okay, we're getting started again. With our third painting, we're doing some beautiful abstract flowers here. These are roses. We're going to have a great time getting this painting going here. First thing I did was I changed out my water, crystal clear, fresh, clean water to start out with. That's what we always want to do each new painting. Even when you're doing a painting, in the middle of each painting, you should change your water in your water container a couple different times, especially if you're going to be doing some really light, very, very light washes. You'd want to have fresh, clean water for your very light washes, like a light blue or a light green. If you're doing a sky or some water, you'd want to keep your water in your water bucket very, very clean. You can also use two different water buckets. A lot of artists use that. They take two water buckets. They have one water pail. They go in there first and clean off the brush first in the first water bucket, and then they go in and use the second water bucket, and that usually tends to stay a little cleaner. So you could either use two water buckets to keep your brush a little bit cleaner and your water a little cleaner, or you could just use one water container and just change it very, very frequently. And I've also seen other artists use really large buckets of water, and they just use the top part of the water on the top of the bucket. So maybe it's a large, almost like a bucket you might use for working around the house in the laundry room and things like that, a large bucket. And you just leave the water bucket half full or 3/4 full, and then you just use the top portion of the water in the water bucket to use for your water, and then all the sediment goes to the bottom of the bucket, so you're always having fresh, clean water at the top of your bucket. So all different kinds of interesting ways. You could probably look up on YouTube, and there's probably a lot of different interesting, really cool ideas for using water containers for watercolor artists. But I tend to just like the simple, change the water frequently with just the one bucket, and that works for me. You're the artist. You'll figure out how you like to do your process and methods with your water buckets and pails. So let's start here. We're going to mix our colors first. Let's get some greens out here on the palette. So some light and okay, so that's pretty. I'll use a little bit of that. And maybe a little bit of brown mixed with this one. Like that. That looks pretty good. Kind of like an olive color, like an olive green. More of a bright green over here. And then we're going to do some darker, maybe some bluish green. Let's do some blue and green. Purple, blue, green. Touch of brown. Maybe a little more blue. Brown. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we have some good greens mixed, and let's mix some reds. This will be for our roses. So we have some red roses here. We'll do an alizarin crimson kind of red here, and then this is kind of like a cadmium red here, and then some orange too. Let's do some orange like that, and I think that should be good. Maybe a little bit of orange up here too, mixed with some red. Okay, so now you can kind of see our method here. We're going to do this beautiful flower painting. We want to mix all our colors to start with, get them all out onto the palette. We looked at all the colors and said, what do we have here? Well, we have some greens. Let's mix some olive greens like this and this. There's some lighter greens. That's like this here, kind of a brighter green. Then we have some dark greens like this here, some darker greens. And then we have our reds for our roses, and you have some more of cooler reds here, some warmer reds over here, like some cadmium red, some alizarin crimson type reds over here, and a little bit of orange too. There's some orangey reds over here in this flower, and then up here too as well. And then maybe we even want to have a little bit of black up here, just to have some black for some of the darker areas over here, I think, that we can mix in with this blue. And I think that's good. I think we have plenty and of paint out on our palette. Let's start. I think I'll start with my darks. And again, I'm using my Simply Simmons it's a size 6 brush, Simply Simmons round watercolor brush. It's synthetic. And here we go. We're going to dab on and have fun with the paint. We are having a good time with our paints here, and we're doing our darker green leaf forms here and there. There's a couple more darker leaf forms down here, like that. Like so. Then we're going to go in and get some of that olive green and start mixing that in a little bit with the darker greens. And this over here is a little darker. This one here, this leaf form here. I'm going to get a little bit of a splash going here. I mix up a little bit of water and I just do a couple splashes like that. And there's some brighter green there. So we're going to get that in. And then maybe there's some more bright green right there. So I'm just referring back to my painting each time I go. back to the palette. I look at my painting. I say, all right, what do I need there? And then I come in here, and we already have the colors mixed, so that's a really big help if you can have your colors already pre-mixed. And a little bit of yellow mixed in with that, maybe. Okay, like that. There we go. Okay. I think everything is looking pretty good right now. We have let's start mixing in some of our reds for our roses here. And we'll mix in some water with that too as well. Maybe some straight paint. So you can always go in and get straight paint right out of your palette, just to give some more little extra added color, exciting color like that. And then here, then you can rinse off the brush. Have some tissue or paper towel, rinse off the brush in the clean water, dry off the brush a little bit, and then you can use a damp brush, and then you can get some light tonal values with your damp brush so that everything doesn't look the same. You want to have some changes in tonal values. And then a little more, this is more of a then again, I rinse off my brush, dry off the water on a tissue so that I can get a nice light wash like that. Again, we don't want a couple of the really, really dark darks. Looks good in there, right? Okay, so now what we can do is add some brown to this blue here. A little bit of red. A little bit of green over here. And then we have a mixture of some shadow colors. But before we do our shadow colors, I notice we need to get this rose here complete. This one over here, like that. Okay. Now we can go in and do our, and you know what, for our shadow colors, let's use our square brush. We've used, and we're going to empty our water too. You see how murky that water looks? Let's make sure we empty the water one more time like we talked about. If we're going to make a shadow color, to paint in shadows in this painting, we don't want to use really muddy looking water. We want to use this shadow color like this, and then we just do this like that. So now we're doing some shadows. If you have to lift up a little bit, if you see some watercolor getting a little bit out of control, that's all you have to do. Purple, I would say some purple is going to look good for shadows. Shadows always look good when you add some purple to those. So there we go, purple. And we're just going to do that. So that's some shadow there. There's some shadow there too up top. Like so. A couple of splashes. You can add some warmth, add some orange to the shadows if you want. Since you have a lot of purples, a little bit of orange gives it a little bit of that warmth and coolness for the shadows. And I think that's good. So as you can see, we had a great time doing these flowers. Very fresh, very fun, free. Didn't take us long. We just drew in our, 3 or 4 or 5 flowers in here with some leaf forms, and the rest is just putting in the paint, getting our colors mixed up ahead of time, and then we just go in and fire in our colors right into the painting. And then once that's done, we're pretty much we're good. We have everything in good shape. So you can kind of see we have a nice looking abstract flower painting with some realism too as well. And again, if you want to infuse a little bit of extra bits of color, now's the time to do it, since you have the we're working on it, we're thinking about it. You can add in some bits of more highly exciting color like this. You can add some there too, like that. And I think that's perfect. So we have 3 paintings completed already, and we're going to have 1 more to go. We're going to do a boat next. I know you were probably thinking, what is Chris going to do next? Well, if you saw the beginning of the video, obviously you did see the boat painting we did, the 4th painting. But let's have some more fun. 1 more painting to go. Again, this is an Extreme Beginners Marathon. We're doing 4 paintings, not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 paintings. We're doing 4 paintings. We're going for the gusto. We're having a great time of it. And again, the more you repeat and practice your watercolors like this, where you're doing 2, 3, 4 paintings in one sitting, even if you can do it in one day, that means you're really making a lot of progress. You're learning as you go. You actually don't even realize how much you're learning when you're working and painting, because it's all like in your mind. Your mind is a large part of watercolor. When you're constantly working and doing a lot of painting and mixing and brushwork and drawing, all these things, it just naturally solidifies in your mind and in your brain, and then it just becomes easier to do. So the thing is, the more you're going to be practicing, the easier watercolor is going to get. It's going to be much easier for you to create more interesting and good-looking paintings that you want to have if you're doing it a lot, because you're just going to get naturally good at it. It's like anything else. The more you're doing something, you're going to get better at it. Riding a bicycle, playing tennis, playing sports, playing a instrument like music, like guitar or piano, whatever it is. The more you're practicing and playing, the better you're going to get at it, and it'll become easier and easier and more fun. So it's a little tougher in the beginning when you're figuring things out, but as you get your that you get that steam going, you start getting that momentum going, you'll find that it'll be a lot easier and you'll have a lot more success. So that's what I want you to do. Get lots of success in the beginning by practicing a lot, and then it'll be a lot easier as you go forward from here. Okay? All right, so we'll be right back and we'll work on our fourth painting, and we'll change our setup here so that we can get our final painting over here on the right, all prepped and ready to go. Okay, so we'll be right back. All right, we're back again, and we're going to get set up for our final painting, our fourth painting here. We're having a great time. So I'm going to move my phone over here for a second. Then we're going to take the printer paper with some artist tape on there, and we're going to lift that off and put it over the top. If you decide you want to do multiple paintings on one sheet of paper, just remember when you go to cover your painting with printer paper, if that's what you want to do to kind of keep your paintings, each of them safe and not let any smudges or any paint splashes get on there, you have to make sure your painting is 100% dry before you put your printer paper over the top like so. Because if you take your paper like this and you drop it on top and it's not dry, it'll smudge and it'll ruin your painting actually. So that's something you really have to remember. You don't want to put your printer paper over the top of anything that's still damp or wet for your watercolor paintings. So this one here, I did the blow dryer and I drew this I dried this 100%. Now I can put my printer paper over the top, and now you can see we have our final section of our pad of paper, which has 4 paintings on it. This is our final painting. We're going to do a boat. So I'm going to take my phone and we're going to take our boat like so. I'll put my plastic over my phone so you can kind of see this is the final painting we're going to do. This is gorgeous boat here. It's in the boat yard. It's propped up on some cribbing and it's being worked on. They're painting it and restoring it for the new season. So we're going to look at this and pretty much kind of make an evaluation here. The painting basically, the boat is in the lower half of the painting, the picture frame. So let's I'll make a frame around my tape here just so you can kind of see the frame here, like so. And so if we make a halfway line across here very lightly, we'll notice that the boat is here in the lower half, and then the upper half is more or less the trees in the background. And there's a bird flying across the scene too. And there's some other things going on in the background a little bit, but we'll kind of keep it simple here, and let's get our boat lightly sketched just so we can kind of get a feel for it. So it looks like it's pretty much, if we hold our pencil up, you can kind of see it. It is a little bit on an angle, the boat. So it's not completely straight across. It goes on a little bit of an angle. And the stern of the boat, the back of the boat, is a little bit of a distance away from the edge of the paper here. And then here, the bow of the boat is about there. And then we come across, and then about 2/3 of the way across, the keel goes up in the back like so. And we have pretty much that type of a shape. And then if we go over here, we notice that about this far across, we have the front of the boat, the front windshield. and then it goes down like this on an angle. So you always have to remember, don't worry too much. If you see you need to erase lightly to get a little bit of a better shape of things, maybe you have to make things a little taller, like that. Looks good. Now I'm going to use a ruler to create some of my my bracing here. So this boat, I think what I have to do here is I have to come across here and then I needed to make that little bit of that dip in the front of the boat, the bow. There's a little bit of a change in height for the bow of the boat there, and then there's a stripe on the boat across here, like that, so we can get that stripe there. Then there's the darker portion of the boat underneath. And then there's the cribbing underneath, so we're going to do some I'm doing some cribbing underneath here, and we're just following the shapes that we see underneath. And there's some more blocks under here, like so. And then we have the angles for these bracings that go underneath here. So that's one there. And then that goes up like so. Those happen to be like that. And then we're going to have there, and then there. Okay. And I think that's good. So we have our and then we have the ground level here. I'll make a couple boats over here, I think, just to make some interesting shapes in the background over here. And that should be good. Okay, and then we're just going to have some trees in the background here, like so. That'll be our dark greens, and then our blue sky up above. And the rest we'll get the dark darks underneath first, and then we'll work our way up. And we should have a good go at this for this boat. Very kind of simple. And let's take a quick break. Once you do your drawing, You'll notice that you might need a break because it's a little bit, we're working a lot now. This is our fourth painting too as well. So, and again, if you break these down, maybe one per day, that might be a better pace for you, or maybe 2 a day. It's up to you. However much time you have, you know your own schedule. As an artist, you have to schedule in your time of when you're going to be drawing and painting and practicing, and maybe you're working on the weekends with your paintings, and then you're doing some drawings and sketches during the week for 15 or 20 minutes every day. I hope you're going to work and do your sketching and drawing during the week, and then maybe on the weekends when you have a little more time, you can do your paintings. But in any case, let's take a quick break, and then we'll start on the painting portion of this. And we're going to do this alla prima. So again, we're going to paint this all at one time, similar to the roses that we just did, which means we're just going to paint everything as we go, and we're not really going to be doing any glazings and so forth. We're just going to go right in there and get everything done at one time. Okay? All right, so we'll be right back, and we'll start with the painting here. Okay, so we're getting started again. Let's do our customary prep work for our next painting. We spray our palette so that we can use a paper towel and wipe that down. Let's do our spritz on our paints here. We'll take our paper towel and we'll clean the palette here. So each time we start a new painting, we're cleaning up the palette, removing all the old paint. It gets all mixed up, and sometimes it creates unpleasant looking colors and mixtures because it's been mixed numerous times, the colors and the paints all together. So that's why we'll clean our palette, make sure we're starting a new painting. We want to clean everything up. Then we're going to do our next, I'm going to use my Simply Simmons number 6 for this. Next thing I'm going to do is change my water. So I change my water, make sure I have fresh, clean water as I start my new painting. And now what we'll do is let's get our colors mixed for this. And this looks like a pretty straightforward color mixture or color scheme for this. This does not look really tremendously difficult. So let's say that we're going to need green up top here. So I'll use my 2 greens up here with a little bit of brown mixed in. That gives us like an olive green, sort of an olive green. We need some blue, maybe, over here on the right-hand side to make some darker mix. Purple and blue with a little more brown, a little more blue. This way we have a green and then a darker green mixture. So you can see the really, really darker green mixes here, which is there's trees behind this boatyard. So we have some big, tall, beautiful trees back there. Look at that. All the interesting dark greens, light greens, kind of a real exciting look to that. So we just remember that's our color mixes up here that we just created for that. Maybe some orange and gold. As well. Get a little bit of that warmer green color. Then we're going to need some red and brown for the bottom of the boat. Brown, some reds and browns, oranges we can mix up. So we have lots of reds, browns. And maybe just a touch of black up here, not too much. We always want to be very careful. Just mix a little bit of black once in a while to get some darker mixes. But be very careful to not mix this black into the rest of your colors, because we will need a little darker black maybe mixed in here and especially underneath here. But we don't want to sort of contaminate the rest of these colors. We sort of want to keep that separate. So keep that black, usually keep it separate. Okay, and then we have some blue. here. Some purple up here. For some shadow colors, I see some purple. A little bit of purple up in the sky, too, I see. And then down at the bottom, brown and orange. And some red. More like this. Maybe a little more orangey, like that. Okay, so I've looked at all the colors and I said, let's mix our colors first so that we don't have to worry about that. Once we start painting, we can just really basically use everything we have in our palette that we've already looked and said, okay, let's mix the colors. We did the greens with the golds and a little bit of the blue too as well to get the darker green mixtures there for the trees in the background. Then we have some purple for some of the shadows here and there. We have the reddish brown color for the underside of the boat. And we have some more blue for some shadowing, maybe some sky and some shadowing. Then we have some more gold, orangey kind of gold color here for the foreground. And we have some blue for some shadowing underneath here too. So we kind of have, all the colors are pretty much good here. We're going to do this alla prima. So I think the first thing we'll do is we'll maybe use the larger square brush, flat brush. And we'll start with our darker darks up here. And we'll just start getting our darker darks here. Like that. Then we're going to get the lighter greens up here with a little bit of that orange mixed in there and some yellow. Like that. And then we're going to go right around the boat. If you want to try to keep a little bit of the some of the boat rigging, then we can do that too as well. Okay, so then we have that there. And you can see I'm just really getting in the darks around the boat, top of the boat. I'm going to try to leave some of the whites of the masts and rigging. Okay, so that is really all right, perfect. Now we can, since we have this, you could see if you can scratch out maybe with a little bit of a bamboo pen, or sometimes you can get a little bit of a light. Like that. We could add a little bit of white paint later. Okay. You can use a round brush. I'm going to use my Simply Simmons. You can use the round brush to sort of get in some of the details if you didn't quite get everything with the square brush. But that looks pretty good. Then we're going to go in and get our reddish color for the underside of the boat, the hull of the boat. So we're really kind of sticking with the darker colors here. And again, I can leave a little bit of that. There's a support post underneath. So you can leave that a little bit. You can Try to paint around that and leave a little bit of that white support post under there as you go, as you're painting, if you can. Okay, and then the cribbing, black, maybe mixed with some of the reds. And then we have the and there we go. We have some more cribbing there. So the cribbing is underneath. And like so. We could add a little bit of blue underneath, a little bit of red. Get some of those darks under there. And I think at this point we could get a few more darks for these posts there. Okay. A little bit of purple over here. Some cool shadows in the background. And then we have some kind of sand looking, like that. There we go. We just add some of that sand look there, we could add a little bit of splashing. Speckles here for some sand. So we have sand, that sand kind of feel. You could just use your brushes and kind of speckle on some sand. Like that. Okay, I'm going to change out my water. And we're doing this a la prima. So we're just painting this all at one time. I'm changing my water one more time because we are going to use some purple and blue up here in the sky, and I just scrub on some sky color like that. Just like that. Okay, some sky wash up top, and we're going to do some more greens. And blue, maybe. Just to have maybe some darker mixes back here. Like that. Okay, then we're going to use some blues and purples for the boat. So I mix some blues and purples. Okay, so I just made this a little darker over there. And that looks pretty good. I think we have everything. We have everything looking pretty good. Some blue into this sandy area here, just to kind of mix in some warm and cool. Like that. All right, I think we're pretty much in great shape here. I think the only thing we're going to do is we're going to add just a little bit of white paint for some of the rigging up here. I think just a little bit over here. So some of the rigging, and we'll make a bird. Maybe we'll make a bird up here flying, like a seagull flying along the shore scene here of our beautiful boat. And I think that's it. I think this is really, everything is looks fine. Okay, so we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll finish up some of the rigging here and our masts and things, and we'll call it a completed painting. Okay, so we're just doing our finishing touches here on our boat, and we're going to use some titanium white. So I have a fresh tube of titanium white. I just was looking around. I think I used up the last of my titanium white, so I just take off the top, and then I just add a little bit of maybe some orange. And I'm using my praying brush here, so a little bit of orange. And I just mix that little bit of orange into the top of the into the tube of paint. So I mix up some orange, maybe some brown, just to give it that little bit of a off-white kind of look to it. And then I just get some of that white paint on. You can always take the white paint, get some on your brush, then dry off a little bit with a tissue. And then you just want to, use it a little bit to maybe capture some of those whites that you weren't able to capture, as you were painting. Sometimes we paint over areas. So I just do that. Add a couple of whites just here and there, not everywhere, and I kind of just do it like that. Just so I can that looks pretty good, and then maybe a couple across here like that, and a couple up here, a couple little, just some very, very light lines with, again, the titanium white mixed with a little bit of either some orange or some brown, or some brown and orange mixed together, just to give it that little bit of like a yellow ochre kind of look. And then once we have that done, we can maybe do a little seagull. So we'll just put some of that white paint on the brush, dry off the brush a little bit, and then maybe we'll just put a couple birds here. Like that. Okay, and there might be a couple boat masts over here. Then we can always go in and get some of the darks, and then do the same thing. Where we have some of those lights, you can also add a couple darks here and there. This. And I think that's good. All right, so we've finished all of our paintings. I'm going to add a little orange, a little bit of orange to the to some of these, just to give them a little bit of warmth to them, like that. And then that's it. All right, thanks everybody. Well, we're really excited about our paintings, our drawings, our compositions here. Let's keep working on them as much as we can. Try to do as many paintings as possible. This is the reason I created this video, is just so we can do like 3-4 paintings in one session. I know it's a long video. It's you know, maybe 2 hours or more for this video, but at least this is a video you can go back to and maybe do it a second or third time, and try to do each painting as you go, and you'll learn something as you go. Each painting, you're going to get better and better at each one as you go. And again, we're using the same methods and techniques on all the paintings, even though the subject matter is changing. You know, we're doing some boats, we're doing flowers, some architecture, some city scenes, whatever it is we're doing, we're using the same techniques though, over and over and over again, with our paintbrushes and our water. And these are the things that when you learn these things and you keep working on them, you're going to get absolutely fantastic at watercolor. So you can do it. Don't worry. Just keep working at it. And we're going to see you on the next video. Bye-bye.